Hi, good evening, and welcome to this week's episode and issue of the Minority Report. I'm Marlon David, your host for this program, and I want to welcome each and every one of you. It's been an interesting week, a number of things taking place and at play in Tobago. However, before we get into the meat of the matter, I want to inform us this evening that you're viewing this particular program on the Tobago Updates Facebook page, which is the most frequently sought after. However, you can also view this evening's program on the Tobago Updates website, the Tobago Updates YouTube channel, and for those of you who like live TV, we also are aired live on M&E TV. That's live on M&E TV. For those of you who want to share your comments and to send us information, you may feel free and led to ask a question or just to share an idea, you can do so. We have a WhatsApp contact number, that's 284-6597, 284-6597. I want to encourage you to send the link out, share the live this evening so that we can get as many persons logging in and having form part of the discussions that we're going to be having this evening. With me this evening, I'm going to have a special guest in studio as well, not physically, but virtually, who we're going to be having some very, very interesting discussions with, and a number of things we see taking place right now in the Tobago public domain, and we're going to truly be able to get a good headway on that. So let me give you the opportunity to share the live link, call a friend, call a family member, call your friends together and say, let's look at the Minority Report tonight. Let's be informed. Let's put ourselves in a place where we have enough information so that we can hold our administration and our government accountable for what is being done in Tobago. So stay logged on, stay locked on, share the live, and we'll be right back.
This is how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show, and everybody's gonna know. Say it to them once again. They better look up below. This is your show, and everybody's gonna know. That's how it's gonna go. They better look up below, 'cause this is your show.
And we are back this evening, and we're off with the Minority Report. This week, a lot taking place in Tobago, as I said earlier, in terms of especially culture. We have, and I know this has already taken Tobago by storm, before saying that, I want to go from today's events backwards. We have the launch of the 2023 Carnival season, the media launch, which took place today at the Esplanade. And a lot was brought out, a lot was seen and proposed to happen. So we sit back. And again, that is going to inform part of our discussions later in the program. However, in Winner's Circle, and last week we had some conversation where we highlighted the efforts and so on of the Tobago bands, 6 bands making it into the finals, and what an engagement that we saw, what a performance. And for those of you who either witnessed it live or even delayed broadcast, indeed the Tobago bands did Tobago proud. However, we have the Uptown Fascinators coming away with the National Small Band title, the National Small Convention Panorama Finals at the Queen's Park Savannah last Saturday. And we want to say big congratulations to the Uptown Fascinators Band, and also to their arranger, O.J. Richards. Did a remarkable job. O.J. Richards did a remarkable job at putting that piece together, and the Uptown Fascinators really wooing the judges, and synonymous with their name, they fascinated the crowd at the Queen's Park Savannah, and their performance was enough to come away with the national title. Again, it speaks volumes to the talent and the commitment coming out of Tobago. And I saw a story that followed a couple days after where they were discussing in terms of the challenges that they may have faced in terms of not having a place to practice, a home base and so on. And so they would have occupied the parking area next to the food hub. And yet still, even with the challenges they may have faced and so on, we see Uptown Fascinators under the stewardship of O.J. Richards doing a remarkable job taking and copying the title against all the bands in Trinidad and Tobago. I want to also say congratulations, really big congratulations to all the other bands that performed out of Tobago, all reaching to the finals. You all did exceptionally well. You all have made Tobago proud. And I must say that if you continue with this fervency and this commitment and dedication to the task, as the saying goes, you all understood the assignment. And you went there into competition, fierce competition, I must add, and did Tobago proud. So congratulations once again to the Uptown Fascinators, as well as all the other Tobago bands that would have participated and done exceptionally well at the small band competition on Saturday in Trinidad at the Queen's Park Savannah. We also want to congratulate Asha James, Tobagonian Asha James, who signed a football contract with Valadares Gaia FC in the Portuguese Women's League. And we've been seeing a lot of conversation taking place recently in the area of sport. Last week we spoke quite a bit about athletics, where we saw 2 young Tobagonians under the age of 9 cupping the national awards. And now we're seeing our homegrown Asha James finally signing her contract, having turned out on several occasions for the national women's team, now going out there on a contract, professional contract with Portuguese club Gaia FC. And they participate and ply their trade in the Portuguese Women's Premier League. And we want to say to Miss James, congratulations, but you also have our support, you have our prayers, and she's joining her colleague who not in the same league or country, but we know as well our Tobagonian representative, Miss Cordner, Kenya Yaya Cordner, also doing Tobago proud. How they're continuing to top score in the leagues as she participates. So Miss James now joining the ranks of Yaya Cordner to lift the banner of Tobago out there, and we see many young Tobagonians really lifting that banner and taking their skill, their talent, and their patriotism, as we would have seen with Joshua James when we highlighted his interview. The cricket legends were saying that he actually said to them, I'm not Trinidad and Tobago, I'm from Tobago. And we know that as they go out there, we pray that God's speed be with them as they pursue their giftings and talents against world-class competition. So congratulations, Mr. James. Before we get into our conversation, we also want to issue congratulations. We were waiting for the Chief Secretary to utter or to put out his release, and he would have done so on Sunday. We want to say congratulations to Chief Secretary Fali Augustine and his wife on welcoming their firstborn daughter, baby girl. And I think that he has now stepped into the arena of fatherhood and parenthood, which is a mammoth task. I don't think there's any task, whether in politics or anywhere else, that actually prepares you adequately for that challenge. So we want to say as well from the Office of the Minority Leader, congratulations to Chief Secretary Fali Chavez Augustine and his wife on the birth of their newborn baby girl. And it's synonymous. I always say that, every child that is born into this world is an indication, and it signals to us that God has not given up on humanity, because he continues to allow us to procreate and to add others to this population, as it were. So congratulations, and we really wish them all the best in their now started journey of parenthood. So a lot taking place in Tobago over the last week. This evening we are going to center our discussions around the season. When we had Christmas, we spoke a lot about what took place on the Christmas season, and we know we had cruise ships and so forth and so forth. However, we are now in the build-up, as I would have indicated as we started. We are in the build-up now to the Carnival 2023 season. And in Tobago, that is a significant time of the year, not just for revelry and for masqueraders and so on, but for those who are involved in the business of Carnival. And I want to stress that it is the business of Carnival that many persons are involved in with respect to applying their different talents and their skill sets and utilizing these skill sets to indeed bring out not just quality talent or quality art, but to bring out and send a message, to bring out what attracts visitors to the island, what would now carry the message of Tobago and the Tobago product, whether tourism, culture, as the case may be. And so there are a number of individuals who definitely stand to position themselves to benefit whenever the carnival season comes around. And so this evening we're going to be having the bulk of our discussion with the president of the Tobago Mass Bands Association, Mrs. Gemma Bedlow Dennis, who will be joining us shortly. I'm going to bring her up so that we can start the conversation. However, I would want to just take a look at something. And as Ms. Dennis is coming up, Mrs. Bedlow Dennis is coming up on screen, I want us to really lock in to these discussions. We would have had the opportunity to play a clip last week as we ended the program. And it is on that note, as indicated, that we're going to be continuing the discussions. And we're going to begin today with the introduction of Mrs. Gemma Bedlow Dennis to the Minority Report. Welcome, Mrs. Bedlow Dennis. How are you?
Pleasant good night, everyone, and pleasant good night to all Tobagonians locked on this program. I am well in the hands of God.
Very well. You prompted me to say amen there. So tell us, Mrs. I know there's so much that you always have to say with respect to Carnival. You've been an avid advocate, not just of Carnival in itself, but of the culture of mass and masquerading and mass bands and the art forms involved. Give us a bit, first of all, so that for the privilege and benefit of our viewers, give us a bit of history of who is Gemma Bedloe Dennis and what is your passion for Carnival as an art form in the island?
Gemma Bedloe Dennis is the daughter of the late Wilma Bedloe, which was the first female band leader on the island of Tobago. I am also the great niece of the legendary Wilton Nancy's that bring mass on the island of Tobago. I have won Queen of Carnival 3 consecutive years. I have played mass. I helped my uncle and my mom design. My mother taught me how to design mass, how to cut your cloth, how to run your braid and everything. So I am out of the bowels of the icon of yesteryear's carnival in Tobago under Wilton Nancy's.
Well, what an introduction. The only word that came to mind when you were speaking is the word legendary, because the persons that you were calling are indeed and have been cited to be legends in the development
That's right.
of Carnival and of
Carnival.
mass in Tobago itself. So what is clear to us and what we can definitely say, and our viewers will agree, is that Mrs. Gemma Bedloe Dennis is no newcomer to the arena. As a matter of fact,
No,
we
I'm
can
not.
safely say that you have the blood of legends flowing in your vein, and you of yourself are definitely on your way to becoming a legend in the development of Carnival on the island of Tobago. So, I want us to speak about a few things. I don't want to get yet to the discussion that you would have started last week with the live. I understand that the Mass Bands Association will give an office space. I know that it has been a pet peeve of yours for some time now in terms of locating somewhere that is stable and so on. Tell us a bit about the office space that has been given to the association.
We, the Tobago band leaders, would like to thank the Chief Secretary and the Secretary, along with Mr. Jesse Taylor and all the entourage in culture, for hearing my cry and my plead. I don't stop knock on door. I just always knock on door. And at last, we have an office, but not as permanent, temporary. We have an office located at Shaw Park Cultural Complex on the first floor, located on your right hand, to operate the carnival for 2023. But is a conjunction in a sentence. But it's an empty office. When we were
Office.
located at Old Works Building, our time was there, I think, for 3 months. Under that administrator, the secretary was for works was Mr. Kwesi Devines. He gave us the permission, the okay to be there for 3 months because the office was not fit to stay on to. When we were ready to leave, I had nowhere to store nothing. And Works agreed to store all our furniture, desks, chairs, copier, printer, fax machine. The Works, we had it. Now that I am located elsewhere, I have called and asked for the equipment that was there. No one seems to know where nothing is. I was told, Ms. Bedloe, that the long time, everything rotten.
So as it is
So I
now,
went,
the you're saying that a space has been allocated but no furniture or fittings or equipment have been given.
I have knocked on everybody's door. And if anybody knows Miss Bedlow, I am a fighter and I wouldn't give up. My passion for mass is to bring back the carnival in Tobago, where it will attract back Tobagonians to stay here and play carnival. But in order for me to operate, I need equipment. I don't have it. I don't have. I'm begging. I just cry at night. I'm begging.
When you said you've
Two
knocked
days,
on every door,
every
you,
door.
you said you've knocked on every door. I would take it that I'm asking, did you
Cultural doors.
contact the secretary, the chief secretary, and so on? Have you been able to reach out to them with this plight?
Well, I I have been trying to have a meeting with the chief secretary for the longest while. I hope that God soften his heart and he will be able to see me. The secretary herself has said that she's going to find out from work, what they could do. But look at the time. My registration continue tomorrow. And I know the fluctuation of bands that will be coming in at Shore Park. Where where would they sit? I only get 2 desks and 2 chairs in there. Nothing else. No copier, no computer, nothing, nothing, nothing. How they want us operate? Are they looking to have the mass fraternity fail? Not once God give me life in my body. I will continue to beg from now until whenever I get something. But if I had to go in that office and sit down on the ground, I go do it.
Well, Mrs. Bedlow Dennis, hearing your plight, hearing your cry, I would join you this evening, and I would even make a call from the Minority Report for the business community and any other person wishing to assist the Tobago Mass Bands Association in making themselves functional at the space designated. Feel free to contact Mrs. Bedlow Dennis or any other stakeholder to get onto her. And if you want to donate tables or chairs and so on, even if it's temporarily, because according to Mrs. Bedlow Dennis, the spaces are temporary location.
Yes, it is.
And so even if it's temporary loaning of furniture, we're calling on the business community to step in and lend some assistance to this very, very critical association in Tobago and critical to the development of culture on the island. Now, I want to shift the conversation a bit to Carnival itself. We all know that the Carnival is about mass and masquerading and so on. I want you to give us a view, first of all, or an assessment coming out of the recently concluded Tobago Carnival in October. I want you to share some of your views on that in terms of as a major stakeholder. And then I want us to begin to look at the allocation, first of all, that has been announced for mass bands. So Mrs. Bedlow Dennis, let me hear what was your assessment coming out of the October experience?
When I hear Tobago is having a October carnival, in my mind, it's just a replacement like the Tobago Fest. It has been said that they want to have their own carnival in Tobago. If you are having, you see, some people just be making comment and they don't understand a simple thing. When you say carnival, let some of them say carnival. When I hear carnival, I looking for competition in carnival. I was told no assistance and no prizes. I asked the question, so what are we having? Isn't it carnival? Remember, we were shut down in an island, a country for 2.5 years. You see, all them people that come from all over the place in Trinidad, they were eager to expose themselves because of Carnival. I thought, this is my personal view, I thought we were to give a taste of the Carnival to come. Give a taste and focus on it for 2023 Carnival. That is what I thought. Now, the National Carnival, you see, some people don't understand. The National Carnival and the October Carnival is two different things. If some of we get off the high horse and understand, the National Carnival is proclaimed by the Parliament. What proclaims the October Carnival? No one can answer that. So again, I thought we would have highlighted, give a taste of the Tobago Carnival, and then from when we proclaim or we announce it, we start to put the house in order to have it a success in October. I hear everybody saying all sort of things. Let me say my piece. Tell me something, Tobagonians. Who benefit from this October Carnival? Where did all the music trucks come from? Where did all the costume that passed judging points and stage from 2014, 2015 in Trinidad? Who benefits from all the boat rides? Who benefits from all the fete and all of that? Did any Tobagonian reap anything? Did Pan reap anything? Did Calypso? I am just asking. I need someone with sense to answer. My view, it had a carnival, yes, but Tobago was the venue for that carnival.
So I'm listening to you, and I want us just to play one clip. I want you to listen, I want our viewers to listen, and then I want you to comment on that clip. I'll ask the director to play that clip that I would have forwarded to him of the secretary as she spoke.
I don't want to preempt our mathematicians in the Festivals Commission and TTAL, but we will not spend, as I said, the 17.5 million. I think we would spend in the region of about 12, 13 million after we tabulate all the expenses. But for an investment of that size, and I want people to bear in mind as well, because I know there was a lot of conversation regarding Tobago's spend on this carnival, but I want people to put a couple of things in context. This is the first large-scale event of this kind that we're having, so that we had to expend a lot of funds in the initial stage in terms of marketing. So part of that spend was for the media launch, part of that spend was for Bago Jam, and part of that spend was for other marketing elements. You talked about radio ads, you talked about billboards. I'm sure everybody saw a carnival billboard somewhere. Everybody saw a cutout or a build out somewhere. That beautiful splash on the Tobago sign at the airport and the beautiful cutout on the greens. All of these things cost money, and we also have to take into consideration the fact that post-COVID, a number of items, the price of goods and services has skyrocketed. And when you look at a situation where Tobago does not have similar economies of scale to Trinidad, who has a robust carnival machinery and a robust carnival system in place, the THA could have taken the decision to, because we want to save money, that we would go with Trinidad suppliers who would obviously charge us less. But I can tell you that as secretary, the bulk of our spend was spent in Tobago and went directly into the pockets of Tobago businessmen, Tobago entrepreneurs.
So, Mrs. Bedlow Dennis, we have this.
Look here.
So we have
I will have to choose my
literally saying to us that the bulk of the money that was spent, which was just under 17 million, the Tobago stakeholders would have benefited.
Well, I don't know about Pan and Calypso, but I know Mass benefited nothing. On the late half, you call bands, 3,000, 5,000. Do anyone know how much it really takes to bring out a mass band? Let me talk about the kings and the queens. To construct a queen costume, you're talking about $50,000, $60,000. We are not speaking about decoration yet, you know. We're only speaking about the frame. Quality mass, your frame will cost you $80,000. And what is the price you're playing for? $20,000. Queen of Carnival, when you overspend more than that? How much Trinidad does win in the Queen of Carnival? We talking about, I hear people talking about the bands in Tobago does bring rubbish. I take umbrage to that. The bands in Tobago need workshop. And when I mean workshop, I don't mean to sit down in a conference room and talk about this. No, I don't know about that. I know to come out and make your mask, get your pliers, your wire, your scissors, your starch, your cloth, all them things. And you as a band leader must know what is your production if you bring in mass next year. You don't wait until 3 to 4 weeks of carnival and make noise for grant and all them things. No. Any of my band leaders can say, Ms. Bedlow always tell them, do your mass as a business. Give quality mass. But again, as they will kill me, quality mass comes with money. I know that. And I have been arguing with them for years. It's not everybody like the bad suits and beads, you know. In my time, when we used to make mass, the last section in the band was for fat people, but well clothed, eh? Well clothed. That will attract. I remember Allison, Sardina, all of them used to play with my mother. Last section, fat people, clothes. But what I'm seeing now you can't get away from that. Like the young people. But quality mass is what they're looking at. When we used to bring mass long time, and my uncle put out the 7 or 8 section in a week's time, everything closed. Why? The product out there was a seller. My mother was the seamstress, used to sew the clothes. Myself, my uncle, we used to come as a family and design costume. Them Ortleys from Mason Hall used to play king at the band, along with this gentleman that died. The mass long time was attractive, real attractive. And I am trying my utmost best to bring it back in Tobago before I take my leave. Instead of people bringing down the mass fraternity, disrespecting bands, no, work with them. I have journeyed to Trinidad and received 2 workshops when Miss Dr. Sawyer Pat Angus was there, and the quality of mass is start to raise. When Mr. Lincoln Douglas was there as the minister, I did a workshop. The presentation was done in barcode. The quality of mass is start to lift. What happened after? It just started die down. I just vex and I just feel hurt to see bands going to Trinidad and get second-hand costumes. Did you make that? Did you sit in your house and make the costume that all you went down and buy? No. It's a passion with me for carnival. Errol Campbell and all of them, that's my uncle, God rest his soul. Brady Roach, Wacko, all of them. When you talk about, and my dear friend, Roll Titus. They all used to come to beat Nancy's every time. And every time my uncle have his idea research, he used to go to the library and research his math. And when he did his synopsis, you can't tell him nothing, because he researched his math. And that is what the band leaders and them need to do. Research. Research your band. Sit in your house and decide if you're bringing math, yes or no.
So, Mrs. Bedloe Dennis, before we come into what is current now in terms of what has been allocated, you spoke a bit of what took place in October and so on, and the way that the mass bands were treated, but you spoke of the kings and queens costumes and some masqueraders. Is it that these costumes did not come from Tobago? They were not indigenous, they were not designed, or is it that they were brought in or paid for even?
I am an island hopper of Carnival, So I could tell you when a costume come from where. And those costumes on the street did not come from Tobagonians. None of them. All of them came from Trinidad. When you take away that off of the street, what do you see on the street for October Mass? How much bands really came out in October Mass? Some of the mass bands in Tobago did not come out. They say they're focusing on the February Carnival. I think it's about 8 or 9 bands came out. How much of them sell costumes? How much of them make costumes and sell? How much of them? We don't know. All I could say, some of them say they took loans from Island Finance and Credit Union and Bank, and they're still paying that back. They're still paying that back. The quality of the quality lift. It lift, but what high quality that they could not attract more Tobagonians to play mass.
So Mrs. Bedloe Dennis, we are enjoying the conversation, but we're going to take a short break. And when we get back, we're going to continue the discussion in terms of the allocation for the 2023 Carnival. I know you have quite a lot to say on that with regards to the type of support the Tobago bands are getting. So we're going to take a short break. I'll encourage our viewers to stay logged on, share the live. Let's invite more persons so we can have more people viewing and benefiting from this evening's discussion. We'll be right back.
Morning, good morning. Put a smile on.
I'm Roxanne Hepburn, the Managing Director of La Marche Parfait des Spas. And now guess what? We're in Tobago and we are so excited to serve Tobago. La Marche Parfait des Spas Tobago will be open to the public from Monday the 5th. Some of the services that you can access will be infrared body steam, spa parties, body treatments, massages, pedicures, manicures, waxing, carbiation, radio, and lipo slimming and cellulite wrap treatment. We are located at number 1 Main Road, Barrington's Court, Bonaccord Village.
If you see or know about a crime, report a crime safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. You can play your part safely and anonymously. Report a crime. Earn a reward. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime. Be a hero, champion, fearless citizen. Be a crime stopper safely and anonymously. Call 800-TIPS. Help stop crime.
And we're back this evening on the Minority Report. In studio, virtually actually, we're speaking with Mrs. Gemma Bedloe Dennis, President of the Tobago Mass Bands Association, and a very, very interesting discussion, but also a very touching one. It irks to hear some of the things that you've been bringing out over the last 35 minutes or so, Mrs. Bedloe Dennis, in terms of what is the true story behind how our indigenous artisans and so on are being treated. We heard quite loudly an announcement made by the Festivals Commission where they announced the Tobago Carnival, the Tobago leg of the National Carnival, and a budget for that, proposed budget for that leg. But we want to talk a bit about the allocation that was cited for the Tobago Mass Bands Association. And I want you to tell us, first of all, what that allocation is, and then the ramifications behind the Mass Band Association getting such an allocation, and how would that now impact what it is you all are intending to do in terms of display for the 2023 Carnival in Tobago.
Let me say this. This is the first time in the history of Tobago Mass that the Tobago band leaders have ever heard about the allocation. We never hear about our allocation in the previous administration and chairman of the Festival Commission. We never know. I have been asking for that. No one seems to be telling me. Now that this new administration comes in, I am getting the information. What is our allocation? Now people feel, let me take my time because I know what I'm seeing with this. 1.3 cannot give me what I'm looking for. Out of the 1.3, you have to give a little assistance, prizes, your workers. Are you, well, first, let me make a correction. I heard Mr. Janana said on the launch today that you'll be having talked with Ms. Bedloe. That is correct. When he meets with me to discuss the carnival, he said, Ms. Bedloe, this is what your allocation, the administration will have no money. I said, okay, but I have to go back to the band leaders to throw it out to them and hear the view. That's where I had my band leaders meeting last week, Thursday at Roxburgh. The bands did not accept it. And last week, Tuesday, is when I had the second one, where some of them who stopped bring carnival come back into carnival, and I throw it out. They did not accept it. I say, well, if that is what they have, and they're not budging and going anywhere, all they decide what all they're doing, if all they're coming or not. But I'm still knocking on doors, you know. I'm still knocking on doors because, sir, that cannot run the carnival. People feel, well, look, people just talk anything they want, yes, but my focus is on mass. And that 1.3 cannot give me what I want. If I have to redo that budget with everything we have to do in the 1.3, you know, I going back to ban the year to $60,000. We ain't going forward, we going backward. Are you saying the same thing will happen in this year October Carnival? Would you be giving them an assistance? What will be the price like? The October Carnival bands in Trinidad was linking with bands here. They already started the conversation. But when they hear no prizes, they pull out. Carnival. We don't understand Carnival, yet I will always say that we don't understand Carnival. If any name change and you put something different, you may not get the attendance that you want. But when you see Carnival, people eager because they know it's affecting on the street, mask, costume, whatever it is. So I hope the authorities do not do the same thing they did last year. Have competition. Give assistance because it will have new bands. This year Carnival, there's new bands. There's new bands coming up. And what I am encouraging the bands and them to do, merge. I don't be telling them and I don't hide it. It is unfair that all you're looking for grants and coming down the streets of Scarborough with 2 and 3 in a section. I don't agree with that. There's nothing wrong in coming in a small band, you know. But have your impact, your visuality, your team, your whatever. But I'm hoping and praying that they merge. Night mass. I have talked to the band leaders. You see these glow lights and jerseys and jeans and all of that. I don't want to see that. I want to see mass on the streets. You can have some costume there that you play 2020 or 20 whatever. Mass is night mass, not night mass jeans and jersey. You're coming out with night mass. That is what I want to see. And I could say that bands is eager to register from tomorrow. And I could say that it will have an increase in numbers of bands on the streets of Scarborough for 2023 Carnival. I am going around to all mass camps on Saturday. If I alone had to go, which I know I alone is not going, my team is going. And I'm going around and see what they're doing, the quality of the mass that they bring in. And they must know by now that they start to launch, advertise. So by, say, the first week in February, they must know the number in their band. Don't wait until 2 days before competition. When all they done get the grant and all coming down the road like chicken feed. So I told my band leaders, and any of them can be on this live. And not biting nice 2023, you know, because the mass fraternity is being disrespected. Let me say that. The product is poor, I know that. But help me some way. I thank the Chief Secretary and his team. I sent in a proposal for workshop. It has been approved, and I hope that right after Carnival workshop start. If that workshop, they start when it was proposed, I could tell Tobagonian, you didn't have to wait for Trinidad elaborate mass. Big Mike Antoine, Jagasa, Tribes and all of them. I had them locked down and ready to come to Tobago to teach the art form.
Dennis,
Yes, sir.
Wasn't a similar system set in motion last year in the build-up to the October Carnival, where workshops, as again proposal for workshops and so on, and some of the same names that you would have just indicated, Big Mike, Antoine and so on, it was already approved and the workshop was set to take place, and then it didn't. What do you think is different now?
Well, it was set. I don't know what was the hold up. They asked me for certain things. It was given. They asked me back for the same certain thing. They wanted list of band leaders, and it was given. I don't know what is the reason. I can't say.
In a similar interview, when we had one of your colleagues Miss Ned Marcelin Ned of Marcelin Ned and Associates. I just want to say good night to her as well. I know she's locked on viewing. She made similar comments of the workshops being proposed and the proposal coming in, and when it was seen, it was approved and so on. And the last thing that was said is that the funds were allocated for the workshop and that was settled. And then the Mass Bands Association were just told that there's no longer any workshop. And it begs the question now, is it that it's a cyclic type of thing? Now you are coming after the October Carnival in the build-up to the February Carnival saying the exact same thing, that the workshop was approved, and but you're still saying God's willing if it comes off. What confidence is there that the workshops are going to come off? And while you're answering that, before we close this evening, I must bring the conversation to you in terms of the conversation we were having earlier, an announcement or so being made of no February Carnival in 2024. So tell us a bit of what was changed that you think the workshops will come off this year, and then what do you think about that pronouncement?
I am going on the word of the secretary that told me in a meeting that my workshop has been approved. I am going on the word of the secretary that I trust her, that right after Carnival, they will consult the consultants and them in Trinidad, Big Mike and them, to have the workshop done, because I called Big Mike some days ago and he said right after Carnival he's ready. You asked, your last question was the October Carnival, the February Carnival.
Before.
I have heard what the chief said, and I don't want to mash nobody corn. I know the Act, and if you read Act 25(1) and the Constitution, Chief Secretary cannot say you're not having the October Carnival. That's an act of Parliament. That's a national carnival.
The February Carnival.
Yes, that's right.
Mm-hmm.
In order for that to happen, you have to go back to the Cabinet and the Parliament. That can't happen so. You have to go back to the Cabinet and the Parliament to have that done. So let's see how it plays out for next year.
So you are hopeful that next year February Carnival is going to continue as usual?
I hope it's continue, and the mass practitioners of the game in production, and more people come on board to bring mass, but with proper mass that will attract Tobagonians to stay here instead of going to Trinidad and pay $3,000, $5,000 to play with bad suits and beat, and when they're done, they drop it by the roadside. What do we have here to store our mass? What we have here? I have discussed something with the former administration. That market that they refurbish and bring that, I discuss and say, why don't we use that as a museum to store carnival, like costumes inside of there? You see, when that tourist boat come off, right there, instead of they walking up and down Scarborough and they're going all over the place, fine, that is nice. But what cultural show do we have to show them? Right in Scarborough there, that by the market, they could have turned it into a cultural hub and have people dancing, you're playing pan, you're doing all your thing, and have little shows there. So they stay there and they look at shows and whatever, buy their food and everything, and get back on the boat at 6 o'clock. But you having the tourists going all down by the Coast Guard walking and looking at the beaches and coming back. And they're paying what 20 or 100 US to go around the island. Yes, that is good. But what are we showcasing them? It's not when they're coming off of the ship or they have a little dancing. No, let's have a show that they will come and sit down and spend their 60 US and go in and see a show. We have nothing. We don't have an archive in storing our own heritage. Nothing.
And
But
indeed,
as my mother
that
always say,
is a brilliant suggestion, a brilliant idea. And what I can see, Mrs. Bedloe Dennis, judging from your faith in your comments of your workshop coming off right after Carnival, I would reach out to you after the Carnival season for us to have a follow-up discussion on the workshops, whether they came off, didn't come off, and even a subsequent conversation along the lines of this very valuable recommendation that you've just made. I am now, we are approaching our wind-up time, so I want you to make your final comments to Tobago. Many of those who are listening, let's hear how you feel going into the Carnival season, so that our viewers get a feel as to your optimism or lack thereof.
My final comment to Tobago is this. Don't bring down the band leaders. They're trying. I know some of them say they mass, yes, but they're trying to lift the standard of mass to attract all to come back and play. I am hearing on a different program where some of them is saying that the band leaders and them greedy and they're waiting until Carnival to start mass. No, Ms. Bedloe has changed that paradigm. If you bring in Carnival, right after the 2023 Carnival, start your mass. Don't wait for your grant because, as I said, they may not get the grant next year. Start your mass. Start to put your mass as a business. Start to advertise. Start to do something to start your mass. Don't wait on taxpayer dollars. As some of them that say, we taxpayer money having 2 Carnival in Tobago. So your taxpayer money is not putting out 147 million in a Carnival in Trinidad. So what are you saying? You have your own here. Encourage your own. Encourage them to do better, which I am trying and do. Don't bring them down. They're trying their best. My focus is to have the 2023 Carnival come alive and bring back mass on the island. Although may not get it's only one large band Tobago have, Luan Melville. You may not get about 5 or 6 large band, but the medium and the small band will come, and even group, but with a quality. So to all mass bands that have started preparing their mass, and Marcus Devines, good night. I'm glad he come back in mass. Many more to come. I'm waiting on Christoph. I'm waiting on Scandalous and all of them to come back in mass. Bring back the Carnival. Let's all work as a team to develop Tobago Carnival. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gemma Bedloe Dennis. And folks, we've been talking with the president of the Tobago Mass Bands Association, and quite a bit has been said by Mrs. Bedloe Dennis this evening. I want to also, before I end, put out another call, as I started, for the business community or any individual willing to assist Mrs. Bedloe Dennis and they at the Tobago Mass Bands Association in acquiring some furniture and equipment to assist in their functionality, or for them to operationalize the office space that they were given. Mrs. Bedloe Dennis indicated to me earlier this afternoon in a conversation that it was just an empty space, and it was another person who donated 2 tables and 2 chairs. So I'm calling on that camaraderie and that Tobago spirit to assist anyone wishing to reach out can contact Mrs. Bedlow Dennis. They can contact any mass band practitioner to get to her to assist them in operationalizing that space so that they can continue promoting the mass as a cultural art form and so on towards building a better product coming out of Tobago. Folks, we're at the end of our program this evening, and as indicated, very interesting one, and we do continue to commit to bringing the facts, commit to bringing the issues that will be ventilated in the public domain of things that has been happening in Tobago. We thank you for your continued support and for logging in and for sharing the conversation. We know many persons, and I mean in the hundreds, actually go back and view the program when we check the stats and so on. It's in the hundreds of persons who revisit. So even those of you who are not able to view live, we thank you for going back and taking a look at the program. And even those who are looking at the program to influence the conversations that they must have, again, we thank you for listening to the program as well. It speaks volumes to the fact that the Minority Report is also informing many conversations and decisions that are being made in the Tobago public domain. I want to thank you for being with us this evening and for logging on. And I want to say stay tuned as we move into our next episode next week, Tuesday, for the Minority Report. Just a word out, stay tuned as well for an announcement of the next event coming out of the Office of the Minority Leader, which would be the press conference, and you're going to receive a date and a time so that you can log in as the Minority Leader and Councillor continue to prosecute the issues and to ventilate those things that need to be ventilated in the public domain and to inform Tobagonians of what is happening at the highest level, or what is supposed to be the highest level and office in the land. Have a wonderful evening, folks. Good night.